So there's a serial killer out there who is mass murdering homeless people. This is terrifying stuff. Now, thankfully, he was just caught. This is in the New York Post. They say, suspect in deadly shooting spree of D.C. and New York City homeless people arrested. So let's see what the body of the article says here. A suspect in the serial killing and shooting of homeless people in the Big Apple in Washington, D.C. was arrested early Tuesday, and the Capitol Police announced. The gunman, identified by a high-ranking police official as Gerald Brevard III, 30 years old, was busted when investigators showed up at his home in the southeastern section of the Capitol, law enforcement sources said. Arrested early this a.m., law enforcement arrested the suspect in Washington, D.C. The D.C. Police Department announced at 5:40 a.m. He is currently being interviewed at our homicide branch. Additional information will be forthcoming. Thanks to the community for all your tips. The arrest came just hours after the force released clear facial photos of the prime suspect, who had been tied to 2 murders and 3 attempted homicides targeting homeless men in both cities. The same man was linked to both cities after chilling video footage caught the cold-blooded slaying of one of 2 homeless people shot in Soho on Saturday. A Metropolitan Police Department homicide captain who used to live in the Big Apple saw surveillance photos and realized they looked like the man in his department was also chasing. Okay. So, now let me give you a little bit of extra information on this. So he stabbed some people. He shot people. He lit homeless tents on fire, the encampments. He also assaulted one brutally before murdering him execution style at point blank range. And look, I mean, with a situation like this, and why this is unique is because it's obviously ideologically motivated. Like, it wasn't like he had some personal grievance with a couple, like 1 or 2 homeless people. No, he was on a spree of trying to kill. I think he successfully killed 2, tried to kill 3 others. He was doing some serial killer shit where he's trying to purge the cities, D.C. and New York City, of homeless people. And, you know, if you talk to him and you get honesty out of him, he's going to make an argument of, like, I don't think these people should be on the streets. I think they're making our cities dirty and gross, and they're like cockroaches, and just full, complete, utter dehumanization. And obviously it's ideologically motivated. And by the definition of terrorism, which is violence done for political or religious reason, this is definitely violence done for political reason. In a sense, he's a terrorist. That's what he is. Now, I found this fact amazing. Gerald Brevard III was previously found guilty in connection to a burglary and abduction pattern in Fairfax, Virginia, and was on probation. So this guy is a criminal. Like, previously he was a criminal. So the thought I couldn't get out of my head was like, so this dude looks at homeless people and thinks, like, these are the undesirables and the untouchables in society. Society looks down on these people, and he thinks that's right. He thinks that's just. But you don't think, like, in the hierarchy of, like, the untouchables and the undesirables, wouldn't most people put, like, proven criminals below homeless people? Like, a homeless person could be out there and never have committed a crime ever, and they just fell on hard luck and they're out there, or they have mental illness and they're out there. But with criminals, oftentimes people think, sometimes fairly, sometimes unfairly, that, like, look, they can't control their impulses, they hurt people, they do premeditated violence. Like, that's way worse than somebody who's homeless. So it's almost like, by his own view of the world, of this hierarchy of who is granted humanity and who isn't, wouldn't he be granted less humanity than the homeless people, and therefore shouldn't he rather put a bullet in his head than start killing homeless people? It's like, clearly there's warped thinking here. Clearly there's warped thinking here, and he thinks he's out there, like, bringing about justice by gunning down innocent people, but clearly he's not doing that. But also, by any sort of hierarchy of humanity, most people would put active, proven criminals below homeless people, because homeless people could easily have never committed a crime or done anything to hurt anybody else. They just fell on hard times. So anyway, I mean, it's terrible. And there has been, I mean, look, we have no idea if this guy where he got these ideas from, right? But there has been a concerted effort on Fox News, among them from Tucker Carlson, to run these incredibly dehumanizing pieces on homeless people, to, treat them like vermin and cockroaches. And the fact of the matter is, this is obvious, but I'm going to make the point anyway. Like, you don't know their story. You don't. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of examples of homeless people who It just all stems from mental illness. That's possible. Some it all stems from drug addiction. It's possible. Some people it's both. Other people, with the way the economy functions and the way the world is, there are plenty of people who literally just fell on hard times. And by the way, the mental illness people and the addiction people don't deserve less sympathy just because they have mental illness or they have addiction or they have both. But there's that group and there's the group of people who just fucking fell on hard times and they can't pay the bills. Maybe they lost a loved one and they fell apart and they lost their job and they couldn't get another job. Like, people are complex. People are intricate and nuanced, and they have life stories. And, you know, if you sit down and listen to somebody open up to you in a real way, you'd be astonished at how moving a lot of these things are. But when it comes to homeless people, there's no acknowledgement of that. There's no acknowledgement of that at all. It's just viewed as like, you're the other, you're weird, and there's this dehumanization that goes into effect. And now you have a guy who's doing serial killings of homeless people. So, yeah, it's terrible, man. But he's probably going to be found guilty quickly because he's caught red-handed. They got his face right on video, and he's the one. So there you have it. Maybe don't dehumanize them. And also maybe let's do the simple thing and let's do the easy thing of, we should also have universal mental health care for all, universal rehabilitation centers if people need it. Shouldn't have to break the bank to do it. And also a housing first policy where it works. We know other countries have done it and it works. Homeless people have their own place. They get off the street. You don't have to give them a mansion. You don't have to give them a 2,000 square foot home. Just give them a little place to stay. Little apartment, little one of those mini houses or whatever. And that helps people. That plus UBI, and you almost eliminate homelessness. You have some number still, but it would be massively reduced. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.